Hey there, welcome to the Chronicle Pregame show. I'm Hoerger alongside Brian Pollack. And Brian, the first Tobacco Road rivalry game is finally here. Duke travels down Tobacco Road to take on North Carolina. 9 p.m. on Wednesday night at the Dean Dome in Chapel Hill. Both these teams are back into the top 25. Duke jumped back in after a 2-week absence. They're at number 20 after a really big week last week. North Carolina moved back up to number 5. So this matchup has all the luster it normally has and all the implications it normally has, Brian. The Tar Heels are sitting in first place in the ACC, but the Blue Devils can really take a bite out of the Tar Heels' lead if they can win on the road in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, so Duke's still sitting at 4 losses in the ACC. North Carolina on top with 2, but that gap is closing quickly. As you mentioned, huge week for Duke last week. Got its first 2 wins against ranked opponents this year, at home against Louisville and against number 7 Virginia. Obviously, Grayson Allen with a very climactic buzzer beater in that final game. So the Blue Devils are riding a 4-game winning streak into this one. Huge wave of momentum. Grayson Allen and Brandon Ingram have really picked up the slack offensively for the Blue Devils. Allen with that game-winning shot, and Ingram, meanwhile, had 25 in that point, including a huge stretch spanning halftime. So as they have for most of the season, that duo offensively has been carrying the offensive load for the Blue Devils and most of the scoring. And I think it'll present an interesting challenge for North Carolina, really, how they want to defend Ingram.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the real key to this game. You know, North Carolina is so talented in the front court. They're talented all over, but they have front court talent and depth, and Duke really does not have that right now. Kennedy Meeks and Brice Johnson are a really dynamic duo together. They're both 6'10". Johnson can really jump. Meeks is a really big body. Brice Johnson had 39 points, 23 rebounds in a game this year. He can really just go off, especially against the team that's as undermanned as Duke is down low. So that's a real big issue for Duke, especially with Emil Jefferson still out with a fractured right foot. So they're going to have to look for Ingram to be able to body up down low. I think it's going to be tough because Ingram's given up 40, 50 pounds to those guys. He's only listed at 190, really lanky at 6'9". He can block some shots, but he really could struggle, especially if he gets into early foul trouble. That could be really bad for Duke. But on the flip side, you've got North Carolina trying to figure out, how do we guard Brandon Ingram? He can do things that a lot of other people can't do. And yes, North Carolina has Justin Jackson, who's 6'8", about the same frame, has that wingspan. But to me, Brian, I don't think that Roy Williams can put Justin Jackson on Brandon Ingram because that almost forces North Carolina to go small. And because they've got Page and Barry as their starting guards, who are undersized guards as it is to guard, Thornton and Allen and Jones. But it's going to be really interesting. They're going to have to put maybe Brice Johnson on Brandon Ingram. And as we saw on Saturday, Brandon Ingram really victimized Anthony Gill of Virginia when Ingram got switched out on with him. So much so that Tony Bennett had to put Malcolm Brogdon off of Grayson Allen and put him onto Brandon Ingram instead to try to slow him down. So, Ingram can really take advantage of a guy who doesn't have the speed or at the quickness that he does on that first step. So I think that's really huge for this game. But obviously, it's not going to be just about Brandon Ingram. It's not going to be just about Brice Johnson. Marcus Page is the leader for the Tar Heels, and he really can determine, if he's a good night or a bad night, how this team plays.
Absolutely. And you said he's their main threat from the perimeter. Joel Berry, their other starting guard, but really it's Page who's the focal point of their offense. And he's had success against Duke in the past, scored 20 points in each of the last 2 seasons. But really, if Duke can shut him down on the perimeter, likely head coach Mike Krzyzewski will turn to Derek Thorin to kind of guard the opposing team's point guard as he has for most of the season. But Page is really their lone deep threat, the guy that can beat you from the outside and hit those 3-point shots. As a team, North Carolina does not shoot the ball very well from 3. As you mentioned, most of their offense comes from that front court and getting to the hole, just at like 32% for the year from 3 as a team. And that mark has gone down in ACC play. So if they can if Duke can shut down Page on the perimeter, that really makes them a pretty one-dimensional offense. They have a few guys off the bench that can score the ball from deep, but primarily it's Page who they're going to look for big minutes in this game. And he feeds them through the point guard position as well. But it'll be interesting to see how Duke can cope with that and counter with their own shooting, because we know Duke's a pretty streaky shooting team as well, and whether or not the Blue Devils have made their shots has really been a huge difference in how they do this year.
Yeah, definitely. Matt Jones shot the lights out against Virginia. Taking a strong performance from him. That's another obviously good sign for the Blue Devils. And also, North Carolina hasn't seen a lot of Grayson Allen on the court. Last year, Tyus Jones had the huge comeback, led the huge comeback in Cameron. Jolly Okafor came back from his sprained ankle, led the Blue Devils in overtime. Justice Winslow did his thing, kind of matched up against Brice Johnson, that same kind of situation as a year ago with the Blue Devils having a small 4, you would say, just kind of they can extend to the outside. But Grayson Allen only played a handful of minutes across those 2 games. So, obviously they've scouted him pretty well, and it remains to be seen how they're going to try to limit his explosiveness to the rim on the drive. But until you get in with him, and you see exactly just how fast and how aggressive he is to the basket. It's kind of a tough thing to get accustomed to. So, Grayson Allen maybe early on might have an advantage just in terms of North Carolina hasn't seen a guy like him in a while. So with that said, Duke is looking for its 4th straight win in this series. They've won 7 out of the last 9 against the Tar Heels. And it'll be Duke and North Carolina, number 5 versus number 20 in the country, 9 p.m. in Chapel Hill. You can follow all our pregame, in-game, and post-game coverage at DukeChronicle.com on our Blue Zone blog and at Duke Basketball on Twitter. For Brian Pollack, I'm Ryan Hoerger. We'll see you guys later.